Hey, good afternoon. Happy Saturday to you. Dr. Preston Winfrey here. And what a beautiful day it is. It's a great day. It's a great day to be alive. And I am once again right here, clothed in my right mind with a reasonable portion of health and strength. And I'm thankful. Thankful that things are as well with me as they are. I trust and I pray that things are well with you. Are they? Have you had a good week? Have you had a great week? Could it have been better? Is there anything that you could have done that would have made for a better week? Well, we keep thanking the Lord for another chance because He gives us chance after chance to improve, get it right, learn from our past, and then commit to do better in the future. And when you look at it, you can't really ask for much more than that. Well, today I want to talk from the subject dealing with the challenge of knowing who you can trust. Do you know who you can trust? Um, trust is a big ticket item. Trust, when we think about trust, we think about a firm belief in the reliability, the truth, the ability, or the strength of someone or something. And it starts, from infanthood, right? Um, babies, just think about it. They come into the world and they immediately start attaching themselves to someone that they believe will do something for them, take care of them. And generally it's that mom, right? Who nurtures that baby, holds the baby close to her bosom, speak to the baby gently, and all those things, and then raise this child up. And so the child learned to trust from the very beginning. And it goes on. But later on, when they really start to develop their motor skills, now they have to start trusting in things, trusting in their ability. They have to learn to crawl in order to get from one spot to the next. Before they would just lay there and holler in hopes, no doubt, that someone would come and get them and take them to the next spot. But they start to develop a bit of independence, right? And once they learn that they can scoot and crawl on their bellies and eventually start crawling on their knees, um, it gets better than that. They say, well, if I can crawl, I should be able to walk. And so eventually they learn to stand. You can't walk before you stand, and they learn to stand. And you see the babies bouncing up and down, standing in one spot. And when they learn that that's not going to cut it for them, and they learn that things are not moving as rapidly for them as they'd like, they start walking. And after they start walking, then it's over, and they start getting into everything. But they have learned to trust in their ability and in their strength. But there comes those times when our own ability and our own strength is insufficient, which then lends us to have to trust someone else, depend on something outside of ourselves in order to achieve what it is that we must achieve. And so we put people to the test. we want to check them. We want to make sure that this person that I'm trusting is worthy of my trust. And so sometimes we'll go through a list, let me see if I can trust him, see if I can trust her. And we just keep going. And at the same time, we do some evaluating. You know, is this person worthy of the trust that I'm placing in them? Or will I be disappointed? Sometimes we're not disappointed. We are happy, like, man, that was one of the best things I could have done. But then you may agree with me that there are those times when we are disappointed because we place our trust in people who sometimes have private agendas. Those who, say, well, I'm here for you. But behind the scenes, is saying only if I can get so much out of you. If the payoff is worth my time and my effort. Well, when you're trusting, generally, it's because you're at a point where you feel as though I can turn my head. I can sit down and take a break. I can take a nap. I can go to sleep and wake up and know that this person who I've placed over my affairs, or this person who I've put into this position, that they will do well, that they will represent, and therefore I will have no need to worry. Families are built on trust. It's a lot more than just blood, but it's built on this word trust. Can I trust you? And are you worthy of the trust that I will put in you? We trust people. When I think about some tribes, whether it's an Indian tribe or otherwise, they trust in an individual to be their chieftain, if you will. And that's how that person gets into that position, because they have watched, they have evaluated, they have waited, they have observed, they have thrown different little things there to see how this individual will react and respond, what they will do in a certain situation, and particularly in a crisis. We want to see. And once that takes place and they're satisfied, then they say, well, you get the stamp of approval. We will trust you with so much more. Well, some of those who we trust, again, I mentioned, have private agendas, and you don't find those things out until you get to certain intersections. And sometimes we just have to hold our head down and say, Lord, didn't see that coming. Why? Well, we're living in a day where people are trying to figure out, who should I trust? Should I trust politicians? Well, you and I know, and if you live at least 10, 15 minutes, you know that all politicians aren't crooked. All of them are not about self-aggrandizement, but there are those out there who are genuinely concerned about their constituents and the people that they serve, unlike those who are self-serving and want what they want, whatever it costs you. They don't mind you paying the price because it's going to make them look that much better. There are those that we can trust. And the challenge is, can I always trust in these people? Or do I have to keep my eyes open? Do I have to pretend as though I'm asleep, and just kind of squint my eyes to see? Well, sometimes we've had to do that. And thank God that we did squint those eyes, because it showed the real character of individuals. So when you don't know who you can trust, who can you trust? You know, you go to the doctor and you wonder, can I trust my doctor? Um, you know, this is my life. When you go to the doctor, you want to believe that your doctor has your best interest in mind. But what happens when you go to a doctor and that doctor is just rushing and is hardly listening to what concerns you? Do you continue with that doctor and say, well, I know the doctors are busy? Or do you say, well, maybe I need to reevaluate this doctor and see if perhaps I need to find me a different doctor, one who will take the time at least to hear what I'm saying, listen to my concerns, and then advise me in an appropriate manner? When you go to a business, do you go to that business and not do you, when you go, you're hoping that they will be fair with you, but when you discover that it's just about their business and none of you, then you have to go and make some reevaluations. When you go to the hospital, go to the clinics for certain tests, we're vulnerable because here we are now, whether it's a CAT scan or MRI or they're taking your blood, you're wondering, is it going to go the way it should go? Are they going to be sensitive to my needs? So you have to trust the process, and you hope and you pray that everything turns out in a manner that's going to be to your benefit. Well, let me say this. When all else fails, when all others fail, when you have tried and have failed even in your trying, and you're at wit's end and wonder, is there anyone who's worthy of my trust? May I suggest to you that there is one who's worthy of your trust. And Solomon helps us in this regard. When you get time, go ahead and read the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 in particular. And those words go like this: trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Listen, when he says, trust in the Lord, what he is literally saying is this: put your weight down on it. Put all of your weight. You don't have to sit on your hands, you know. I've told the story about the person who flew on an airplane for the first time and they were just so petrified. They just didn't think that all of that metal would be able to stay up in the air. And knowing their own weight for the whole flight, they sat on their hands. Wouldn't move, just remain there, panting and almost hyperventilating. But when the plane landed, they said, well, you're free to go. And the person said, well, when is the plane going to take off? They said, the plane took off, mister. And he said, whew, well, you know, I never put all my weight down. Well, it ought not be that way with the Lord. You can put your weight down on the Lord because he's trustworthy. And the Lord is worthy of your trust. Solomon says, trust in the Lord. Now, unlike others, where we say, well, you know, I need to know what your program is. I need to know how you're thinking, how you're feeling. That's not so with the Lord. First of all, our ways are not his ways. Our thoughts are not his thoughts, right? His thoughts are so much greater and so much better. As a matter of fact, he knows everything about us. He knows the thoughts and the plans that he has for every life, and that includes your life. He knows what we're going to be, where we're going to be, how we're going to be. The things that catch us by surprise are never a surprise to the Lord. Long before we were ever formed in our mother's womb, the Lord had a plan for us. He had a design for our lives. And he already knows what it is that he would have us to do. And so if we can just trust him, if we can just put our weight down on him, you right now who's trying to make a decision, where do I need to be? What should I do? I had a conversation with a friend who is in the valley of decision as it relates to, where should I worship at? The Lord already has the place set out for you, right? He already knows. And his Spirit has promised to guide us and to direct us. Even if you're going through the valley of the shadow of death, you don't have to fear anything, because the Spirit of God is there to guide you, direct you, comfort you, give you the assurance that, hey, I'm headed in the right direction. In other words, some of the things that we stress over and have stressed over, there was no need for it, because the way had already been prepared. Can you get that? The way had already been prepared. I've heard a woman say, man, I wish the Lord would have told me who I was going to marry. I wouldn't have spent all that time worrying and doing all those other things. I would have just waited. Well, his ways are beyond finding out. Sometimes we don't realize that the Lord had the best plan in store for us. But it's because we have grown up with mistrust. We have been mishandled by people, by things. We have been disappointed by those, many who said, oh, I got you. I got you covered. Don't worry, don't worry. And, oh my goodness, how many times have you heard that? Someone say, I got you. And in your time of need, they were nowhere to be found. And then the next time you did speak with them, they say, oh, you know what, overslept, or something else came up. But I just figured you would be all right. And if not, we can just start from scratch. Well, sometimes you can't start from scratch. Sometimes you're at a point or an intersection in life when you just need to make that decision. And especially when you get traffic behind you, you can't sit there in the middle of the intersection trying to figure out, should I go to the right or should I go to the left? Because they will lay on those horns. And if you're confused, you just may make the wrong turn. And so with the Lord, things are so much different, because he knows the way we should go. Matter of fact, he has already laid out the path. And if we rely upon his Spirit, again, that's putting your weight down on him, right? Put your weight down. Now, don't tell me, well, I weigh 120 pounds. I weigh 230 pounds. I weigh 300 pounds. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you weighed 700 pounds. You can put your weight on the Lord, and he has promised to do some things for you. So Solomon said, trust in the Lord. Trust in him. Don't trust at him. To trust means you have to have some faith that is developed. You can't just talk this faith. You have to walk the faith. Talking and walking, they go together. They're a team. Faith and works, they are a team. So Solomon, who was the wisest human on the earth, he says, trust in the Lord. And he says, do it with all your heart. In other words, just throw yourself in there. Don't have a second doubt. A thought. Don't doubt. Don't say, but what if it doesn't? Flip it around. What if it does? What are you going to do if it does work out for you? Well, I'm going to rejoice. Well, then don't wait for the battle to be over. Start rejoicing now. When you lay something before the Lord, when you place it in his hands and trust him with it, don't you know he knows what to do with it? Come here, little boy. Little boy had a lunch, 2 little fish and 5 little biscuits, right? And he put that in the hands of the Lord, the master. And you know what happened, don't you? Jesus took it, he looked up toward heaven, he blessed it, and started passing it out. Say, go, give these to the people that I told you to have them to sit down in groups of 10s and 20s and 50s. And he started feeding them. And so on, before they had left with the loaves and fish, they said, what is this among so many? There are thousands of people, and all we have is this little boy's lunch. Jesus said, that's more than we need. And when you read that story, you discover that at the end of feeding all of those thousands of people, they had 12 baskets of fragments left. Listen, you can never put your trust and faith in the Lord and be disappointed. There is no disappointment in the Lord, because when you trust him, he will bring you out. So Solomon said, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And then the third thing is, he says, do not lean to your own understanding. I get it. We want to be smart. We want others to know how smart we are. We want to be able to say, I did this on my own, and I didn't have to depend on nobody, and not even the Lord. And can I tell you, that's not a good thing to brag about, because we really do need the Lord. So he says, don't lean on your own understanding. In other words, don't go around talking about how strong you are and what all you can do. If the Lord does not give you the strength to do it, you won't accomplish anything. If he don't give you the mind, right? If he doesn't give you the ability to inhale and exhale, then you'll be deader than a doornail. So he says, don't lean to your own understanding, but in all your ways. That's the fourth thing, in all your ways. Not some of them, not in most of them, not in the ones you think, well, I may need the Lord's help with this. He said, in all thy ways, acknowledge God. Now, this is not some intellectual acknowledgement like, oh yes, I know the Lord is there. No, that's wrong one. Wrong church and the wrong pew. But it says, acknowledge the Lord in all your ways. In other words, put him first. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. I'll give them to you. So don't lean to your own understanding, even when it seems as though, oh, I already know. I know what's going to happen. Okay, you may know what's going to happen, but you may not. So don't lean to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. And then, fifth, he will direct your path. And listen, if the Lord directs your path, you'll be successful. When the Lord directs your path, he transforms midnight into days. When the Lord directs your path, there is no failure at all. You cannot help but succeed when the Lord is directing your path. When the Lord directs your path, you don't have to keep looking over your shoulders, wondering, did I go in the right way? Yes, up front, you'll wonder sometimes, because the path that the Lord may send you down may be totally unfamiliar to you. And you sometimes say, wow, I don't know how this is going to turn out. You do not have to know how it's going to turn out. But listen, if you have the stamp of approval from the Lord on your plans, you will prosper. So, who can you trust? The challenge of knowing who you can trust can be eliminated when you trust in the Lord. And I want to encourage you today, trust in the Lord. Keep Him. Keep Him as the main person in your life. Keep leaning. And sometimes it is a challenge to lean. I know as well as any other person. But if you lean on Him and put your weight down on Him, there's absolutely no need for you to fret nor fear, because the Lord will see you through. Let me close by asking you a few questions. What's challenging you today? What obstacles are in your path? What darkness are you facing? What skeletons are you having to deal with? What demons are chasing you? You know, we all have things that we wish we did not have, but just wishing that I don't have them does not eliminate them. But what I can do, I can take all of my concerns, all of my anxieties, all of my cares, and I can literally cast them on the Lord. The Bible said, cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He'll hold you. He'll never let the righteous be forsaken. Isn't that wonderful? David said, I once was young, now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. You know the Lord loves you so much that He died, gave His life on a cross, suffered, bled, gave up the ghost. They buried Him. And on the third day morning, He got up. He who is the resurrection and the life, He got up and declared all power in His hand. He's got power if you just trust Him. Even when you can't trace Him, trust Him. And I'm a witness. He'll see you through. Well, listen, this is Dr. Winfrey saying thank you for joining me on this afternoon. And I pray that this time has been a blessing to you. Hope that you're challenged. If you have not been trusting in the Lord, and perhaps even trusting in the Lord the way you should, may you find the courage today to do it and know that He will bring you through. I love you, and God loves you. And once again, thank you for joining me. And if you want to get those notifications of the times when we are on, I would say hit the notification bell right there on the right-hand side at the top of your screen. And that way you can be notified when we're on. And then finally, feel free to share this on your page and share it with people in your contacts. You just never know who will be able to use this message today. Until next time, may the Lord bless you, and you real good.